not good?
Who, Tom Brady?
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Castle went 11-6. You feel me? So I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. Matt Castle.
You know what? You so lucky the Bills don't have. You can't use that excuse on the Bills because like they have like fucking Nate Peterman, so we don't know what a confident quarterback would have done. so we gonna let you have that because technically it is true.
It's funny because we have the NFL draft starting tomorrow, and of course, to celebrate that, we are going to do an all NBA podcast. Sports. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Stuff About Sports. Do not adjust your sets. There is no Bert today. He's sitting. I don't even know if they call it courtside. I guess rink side at the Rangers game. It up with family and friends and all that good stuff. But tonight, when Bert's away, Jerm gets to talk NBA, which I rarely get to do because Bert doesn't watch basketball, so it's kind of hard to do a show. So thankfully, I have some friends with me. JT and the Don are here. Dwayne, Marcus, or Dwayne Marcus, depending on which city he's in. He's coming fresh from Turks and Caicos with his nice Windsor knot tie and collared shirt.
I do have a nice Windsor knot. This shirt I did buy from Target today for $15. So.
See, it was a little chilly out there in the DMV, so he's wearing the chinchilla down to the feet. So here we are, and now he's here with us, doing some NBA talk. I just wanted to say, guys, that it's hilarious. Before we get started, because I want to get this out of the way, that it's hilarious that the Brooklyn Nets are already demanding an explanation from Ben Simmons on why he's yelling at Nick Friedel to make sure you get the footage of me doing a little bunny hop dunk and talking shit to everybody in the media, and then he doesn't show up at a pivotal game 4 while the rest of his team struggles, and he's up there looking like Dapper Dan or Magic Don Juan or a pack of Skittles. So I will start with the Don. Who's to blame for the Mets sweep or the Mets failure? I guess we could call it the whole thing, the failure.
So I'm gonna go. I'm glad you phrased it with failure because I'm gonna go outside the organization. It's James Harden. I mean, it's James Harden's fault. I mean, they went at least. Listen, I know Kyrie's gonna take a lot of heat, but at least he was there. He played in all 4 of the games. James Harden's a guy that they gave up 3 unprotected first-round picks for. They gave up Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen, and you've seen what those guys can and have done. And they basically mortgaged the future to bring in Harden to make those other guys happy, meaning KD and Kyrie. And then Harden starts falling off the cliff. I mean, with the Nets, he only averaged 22.5 points per game, which was his lowest average since 2012. He shot 41.4% from the field, which was his lowest since 2009, which was his rookie year. I mean, he was locker room poison throughout the year, and then he forces this trade. So instead of having Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, and these picks in the future, because I look at it as not just a failure of this year, but failure possibly down the line, is that you gave up all those draft picks. LeVert, Jarrett Allen are gone. Now you bring in Simmons, and guess what happens? He doesn't play. He's just as big of a distraction as James Harden. So the root of it, because listen, KD and Kyrie, the Nets knew what they were getting. This was the plan to bring those guys in to get a third guy. And the third guy was Harden. And he just kind of pukes all over them, heads out of town to your team, Jerm. So it's James Harden. If I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, I'm pissed at him.
I dig it. Dwayne Marcus.
I'm inclined to agree with Don. That's pretty much part of the course every time I work with JT. So at least for these 2 guys, it's not that much of a shock. But I got to say it's Steve Nash. I feel like over the last 2 years, especially this season, Steve Nash has gotten away. He has definitely gone under the radar. Like, okay, the media, and by the media I mean Stephen A. Smith, wants to throw all of this on Kyrie Irving, and I get it. Like, the media today has to have a villain. There is, for some reason, this sick obsession with there needs to be a villain in the NBA. I don't know why that is, but for some reason they've picked Kyrie Irving to be that guy. And look, I'm not saying that I think that obviously if Kyrie Irving gets vaccinated that the Brooklyn Nets are swept, because obviously that's not the case. They wouldn't even have been in the play-in potentially if Kyrie Irving gets vaccinated. But we also have to remember, right, KD was injured and missed a large portion of the season. As Don alluded to, James Harden forced his way out. And the guy that they traded for in Ben Simmons just decided he wasn't going to play basketball. So that plays a factor into why they were the 7th seed. And then Steve Nash, according to the graphic during the game 4, Steve Nash, as a coach's decision, decided to keep Blake Griffin out of games 1 and 2. Now you're thinking, what does Blake Griffin have to do with any of this? Well, Blake Griffin's not going to light up the scoreboard as far as giving you points. But Blake Griffin in game 4, especially down the stretch, made a lot of crucial effort plays, a lot of as far as matching effort that the Nets were just lacking against the Celtics in games 1 through 3. Like, that's an issue. Steve Nash has continuously shown that he was not the guy for this job. Like, no, there is no denying that Steve Nash is one of the greatest point guards of all time, and he's very talented, and he has one of the highest basketball IQs that we've ever seen. But that doesn't mean he's qualified to be a head coach. Like, he continuously showed us that he wasn't the guy for this job, that he didn't do a good job with game planning. He didn't really look like he was really interested in making adjustments. He didn't really look like he ever had any crucial decisions as far as game planning, and it looked as if throughout the course of this season and last that his mindset as a coach was, we've got KD, we've got Kyrie, just let them go out there and play basketball. They're two of the greatest talents we've ever seen. Just let whatever happens, happens. It didn't really look like Steve Nash was coaching this basketball team. And when you look at a team like the Boston Celtics, who are very scrappy, who are young, who have the defensive player of the year, 2 really solid wing defenders, and Robert Williams, who probably would have been deployed if he didn't get hurt. Like, you have to coach this basketball team regardless of who's on the floor with you, regardless if you have KD or Kyrie. So I'm going to say a lot of this falls on Steve Nash. Like, I know we want to put the blame on Ben Simmons. We want to put the blame on James Harden as Don did. We want to put the blame on KD and Kyrie. But Steve Nash has to get some of this blame. And I think for the last 2 years, Steve Nash has kind of flown under the radar and hasn't really had the spotlight put on him because there's superstars on this team. And there's a superstar standard that hasn't been met. But I'm going to say a lot of this has to do with Steve Nash's inability and lack of qualification for being a head coach in the NBA.
HC.
He kind of stole my answer, but I'm gonna go a different way because I remember distinctly the last time we were all on an NBA show together. I said that Steve Nash was the worst coach in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So I said that before they were going in. But to be honest with you, if we were talking about regular season struggles, I would definitely throw it on Steve Nash. And also, I'm not going to fall into what I call the Jerm trap, where he don't care about answering this question. He just wants to shit on Ben Simmons. That's what he wants. You want somebody to say Ben Simmons, and if we don't say Ben Simmons, he's going to bring it home. So I'm not going to steal your thunder and say Ben Simmons because I feel like he has nothing to do with it. Can't say James Harden. Can't blame people that's not in the locker room. I'm going with the best player on the team. It's supposed to be KD, right? KD is supposed to put everybody on his back and win a championship. Giannis did it. People have done it in the past. Like, that's what Kawhi did it in Toronto. Like, that's what superstars are supposed to do. And he didn't do it. And to be honest with you, I know people always want to talk about, like, oh, like, is KD a top 10 player all time? Like how great is he? Like, to be honest with you, let's say KD never leaves OKC and doesn't go to the Warriors and he doesn't win those titles. Like, what's the difference between him and Russell Westbrook? Like, I feel like literally those championships that he was a part of in Golden State is the main reason why nobody said KD, because it's like, oh, well, he's a champion. He's already accomplished this. Like, he can't do it by himself. We like him. He's already won. But it's him. Like, he hasn't accomplished anything on his own. Like, he went to a loaded franchise and was a mercenary. Like, what have you done by yourself when you have to buy the groceries, get in the kitchen and cook it, and serve it? He hasn't done anything. Like, I kind of took it personal, not personal, but it was like a little annoying to see, like, okay, like, this was supposed to be your year to win, and then at the end of the game, like, they're all happy hugging up the Celtics. Like, these dudes just beat the crap out of y'all. Like, why are y'all happy about this? That's because KD knows he's not going to be the blame. It's either going to be Kyrie or Ben Simmons or James Harden or Steve Nash. And I feel like because of those reasons, that's why KD is the most to blame. Like, he's supposed to be a leader, and he didn't live up to that role.
The only reason I'm going to disagree with you is because Chris Paul, is he not a top 5 point guard of all time or somewhere in that class picture, somewhere from 4 to 6? He doesn't have any rings.
Top 10 player though, like period, regardless of position. That's
but what I'm saying is Nikola Jokic is supposed to be the MVP, and you're getting scraped, right? Like you can't place blame on individuals who are on the court because of what you think they should do. Because he did lead a team to a championship. He was, in fact, the best player on the best team in the league. He wasn't riding coattails. He wasn't DeMarcus Cousins out there.
He wasn't a bus rider, Jerm.
He wasn't a bus rider. He drove the bus. He said, "Hey, Steph, get out the driver's seat, buddy. I got this."
No, it was dual passengers. I mean, I think it was a perfect storm for him. I think it was a perfect storm for him. Like the way that team was set up with his skill set, like it was a perfect storm for him. But like, let's say if two of those guys weren't there, like I don't think they win. Like look at when he was in OKC. Like they had the Warriors down. Like. And Russ played his ass off. And what did KD do? Is like, all right, cool. Like, I'll let somebody else finish it. Like, I feel like that's his mentality, and that's why I'm blaming.
Right, but as we can see with history, right, that was the mistake, letting Russ take control. But at that time, they were young. They don't know any better. You know what I'm saying? But listen, JT, you're absolutely right. The only person to blame is Ben Simmons. Listen, guys, we can talk about what ifs, if, ands, and buts. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. We have to deal with the facts of what's happening right now. The fact is, the team was what it was, and Ben Simmons was not out there. He was traded because what was the knock on Brooklyn all year? They didn't have any defensive stopper. They didn't have anybody to play defense for that team. They traded James Harden specifically. They sacrificed offense for defense. That was the one thing Ben Simmons had to provide. He didn't have to shoot. It was perfect for him. You want to talk about perfect storms? Brooklyn was the perfect storm for Ben Simmons because he was asked to be the second best player on a team that had championship aspirations, which means you had to be an offensive player. A center can't do it by himself, as we're witnessing by Nikola Jokic, right? Like a center just simply can't do it by himself as much as no matter how talented they are. So Ben, this was catered for you. You would have won this thing sitting there acting like a baby in Philly, faking your mental health issues because you want to get it, because you don't want to play with Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers because they hurt your feelings. Well, here you go. You get to play with Kevin Durant. You get to play with Kyrie Irving, two people that half the league would give their left nut for to win a championship. And all you had to do was play defense and pass the ball. And he couldn't even do that. You know why? Because he doesn't care about basketball. So he is to blame because while they're all sitting on they're facing the Celtics, and Marcus Smart somehow was able to just freely get into the lane, one of the least offensive players they got, he was the one killing them, not just Jason Tatum. You're going to let Marcus Smart, the defensive player of the year, carve you up in the lane. That's your job, Ben Simmons. So, yeah, we can blame Steve Nash for bad coaching. Coaches get way too much credit for being who they are. Talent wins, right? The Phil Jackson, I'm not saying that he's not a bad coach, but people act like he's like the Messiah. You had Michael Jordan, Shaq, and Kobe. There's not many coaches that wouldn't be winning with the rosters that you've had. At the end of basketball, more than any other sport, is about the talent more than the coach. It has to be. There's only 5 players per team per unit. There's only 10 players on the court at a time. In basketball, singularly, one player makes a difference. And in this case, it was Ben Simmons. So yes, the James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant thing didn't work. But at the end of the day, I'm pointing to the guy who had no excuse to not be out there and actively faked his way into not being out there.
But Jerm, you could say the same thing. We're looking at it from the Nets. You're a 76ers guy. There's bias there. We understand that you're upset with Simmons. But Nets fans should blame Harden because Simmons would never have been on the team because Harden did the same thing Ben Simmons did in Philly. So if I'm the Nets fans, I'm more mad at him because it should have never have been Simmons on the Nets. It should have been Harden. He did the same thing. He ran himself out of town. He got out of shape. He didn't want to play anymore. He faked injuries, probably hamstrings as always, and then they shipped him out. So he did the same thing Simmons did in Philly. That is why Nets fans should be more upset at him. They should have never even had to deal with Ben Simmons. That was the best they could get. They could get no other value in return. They had to make that deal. And they knew, listen, what you said, you may believe, I'm not just going to poo-poo the mental health stuff because I'm not Ben Simmons. Exactly. I'm not in his head. So he may have issues, you know.
And also too, like, what if he's legitimately hurt? Like, I think that's what people are
doing
over. Like, what if he's hurt?
Doing
hurt
what? He already said today.
What if the back issue is for real? Like, we never know.
It's not. He said it today. He said maybe my mental health. I have a block. Because the Nets asked him, why aren't you playing? Why didn't you play? Oh, I'm still not over last year's playoffs. Well, wait a minute, Ben. You said you couldn't play in Philly because of the playoff thing. All you needed was a change of scenery. Cool. We got you that. You got sent to Brooklyn. The week he got sent to Brooklyn after staying home in LA this whole time, he's already out there on the bench. He's already at practice. Stuff he's absolutely refused to do here in Philadelphia. Well, you got your change of scenery. All right, 10 days or so, we'll let you get back in shape and we'll see what's going on. Oh, I'm not ready. The reason why I am not buying this mental health excuse is because of history and track record. I'm wary of anybody who uses mental health as an excuse. Not to say it's not real. I'm saying Ben Simmons' mental health is not real because you only bring it up when it's convenient for you to not do something. It's only convenient. Mental health never became an issue with anything until you realize you could not get paid for just simply staying home. So to reach the collective bargaining agreement, you said, oh, I have mental health issues. All right, well, you have to go see a therapist. Cool. Oh, you have to come to practice and do the bare minimum. Then he didn't even want to go see the team's therapist. He wanted his own. Once he got his own, he didn't want the Sixers to have the information from that therapist based on his mental health stuff, which goes against what the CBA says. So what are you trying to hide? And then track record, right? He flaked on the United States basketball team to go play for Australia. The moment he did that, the Australian stadium, which basically sold no tickets because there was no players on the Aussie basketball team, sold out 50,000 seats because Ben Simmons was coming. And you know what he did the week before the Olympics started? He bailed and said that he couldn't play. The track record in history means a lot.
Maybe that shows that there are some issues there. When pressure gets to him, he may not be able to handle it. That is part of, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, but that seems to be what his mental health issue may be. But let me go back to the James Harden thing. If they have LeVert and Jared Allen on this team instead of JT's guy, Andre Drummond, and an extra first-round pick, do you not think they at least win one game? I mean, that's why I'd be upset if I'm James Harden, because he did he forced himself out of town.
Why are you guys blaming people that aren't there? Like James
because that's the question. That's the question.
He is gone. Ben is saying
Ben Simmons was never supposed to be a part of the plan. So anything he was going to do is going to be a bonus. Like, I don't understand. And also, too, I feel like
Ben Simmons isn't on the team either. I mean, technically, he didn't take the court. You're blaming a guy. You want to blame a guy that's not taking the court. I mean,
but Don, back to the mental health thing.
KD almost had a triple-double with 39 points in Game 4, and they still got beat. They were not the better team because they had to give up Karis LeVert, Jared Allen. They didn't have a big man in the middle. The Celtics, that's why Marcus Smart got to the bucket. Not only the perimeter defense, there was no big man.
Jared, with the Jared Allen Brooklyn team, would that have made a difference? Because that's what got Harden. So you were saying they were better off without Harden anyway.
Right. LeVert and Jared Allen on this specific team. Now, Joe Harris, JT, you don't think LeVert and Allen win a game with KD? You don't think they win one game?
You try to no.
One game. That's all I'm saying. No. That means they're a better team if they can win one game.
No. I think the problem is
you don't like Jared Allen LeVert.
I think the problem is the Nets.
I don't know what
like Jerm said the Nets are a perfect storm. I disagree. They're a mirage, and the reason they're a mirage is because the two guys that are supposed to be the best are playing like they've already made it, so they're not hungry. Like, that's the problem. So no matter who plays with them, if those guys don't get it done, like, they're not going to win.
JT, they had no help. The Celtics defense could focus on
Joe. Okay.
Joe Harris.
That's BS because they had no help. This is the same team that you have been in my ear, phone, text messages. Oh, nobody wants to see Brooklyn for a month and a half before the playoffs. Nobody wants to see Brooklyn. What name? Like, James Harden had been gone. So all of a sudden they just forgot how to play basketball. Like, it was they had enough talent where people were just avoiding them for seeding matchups, and they were the most dangerous team in the league. That's what you were saying. But all of a sudden now it's like, oh, they didn't have enough help. Like, which one is it?
Well, I think what happened with because I too for the last month and a half of the season thought no one wanted to see Brooklyn in the playoffs because of the fact that we're talking about a team who has KD and Kyrie now, and more importantly, Kyrie on the road and at home in the playoffs. I think that's what makes the Brooklyn Nets heading into the playoffs a team that you don't want to see in the postseason. What ended up happening is two things. Number one, Ben Simmons doesn't play, which means you now really suck defensively. You don't have someone you
but okay, was that not the case during the regular season when everybody was riding the bandwagon? Like, that's I feel like
so this is
why KD is to blame. The reason you thought Brooklyn was this terrible matchup that everybody should avoid is because they had superstars, and those superstars didn't get it done when it mattered.
As we know, though, the playoffs are all about matchups, and what ended up happening, unfortunately, is for Brooklyn is while there are matchups that there are teams that don't want to see Brooklyn, right? Like the Milwaukee Bucks probably didn't want to see Brooklyn. The Philadelphia 76ers probably didn't want to see Brooklyn in the first round.
I feel like everybody wanted to see him after what they just saw showed up in round one.
Yeah. Well, hindsight is 2020, but I think the point is because the Sixers don't play defense and because they're so heavily reliant on KD and Kyrie, the Boston Celtics put together a perfect game plan. Like I think what's happened is, and again, it's unfortunate that KD and Kyrie and the Nets get swept. I think what's unfortunately a byproduct of what's happened here in this sweep is the Celtics have kind of gotten the short end of the stick, and it feels like the Celtics aren't getting credit for playing 4 basically perfect games of basketball in the playoff series. Like when they needed to, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown stepped up. Like regardless of what happened in the first 36 minutes or the first 44 minutes, whatever the game, when the going got tough and when those guys needed to hit shots, they hit shots. We have to remember this is a team that after the All-Star break in the last 32 games, they were 26-6. They had the highest offensive rating, one of the highest defensive ratings in the league. Like that matters. So while the Brooklyn Nets were obviously the best play-in team available of all on both sides, and while yes, the Brooklyn Nets did pose matchup problems, the Brooklyn Nets pose matchup problem for a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, who aren't as stout. What is going on? Who aren't as stout of a defensive team as the Boston Celtics. A team like the Philadelphia 76ers, who, while they have the talent and while they have the defense, can they really match the firing power of a KD and a Kyrie with James Harden having fallen off? Because while Don mentioned that James Harden was struggling in Brooklyn, he didn't do that much better once he did get to Philadelphia, and we still haven't seen him get back to the lethal, prolific score that he once was in Houston. So KD and Kyrie posed a threat, absolutely, but the Boston Celtics played 4 perfect games of basketball. Like I've been saying it all week. This series reminded me a lot of the 2018 finals. Like the first game was very, very close, and it was a lapse in judgment at the very end defensively on the Nets' part that led to the game winner. And they just didn't look the same in game 2, 3, and 4. Like just like how in the 2018 finals, JR runs out the clock, the Warriors end up winning that game, game 1 in overtime, and then 2, 3, and 4, it's just over. Like that's kind of what this felt like. So that's 1. 2. I have mental health issues. I'm not going to comment on the mental health issues of another grown man. What I will say though is that track record does apply here. And Ben Simmons has a history of quitting on his team. He quit on his team in LSU and decided to declare for the draft, and he hasn't been dedicated to getting better. Like the Ben Simmons we saw when he came out of LSU is the same Ben Simmons we see today. He quit on the Philadelphia 76ers. He's quit on the Brooklyn Nets. He's quit on the Australian basketball team heading into the Olympics. So
he quit on LSU. He's quit everywhere he's gone. And let me be clear. Let me back up and we all have mental health issues. We're all grown men. We just deal with it in a different way. But there's a difference. Again, my issue is when you use it as an excuse to not be mentally tough or work on your mental toughness. When you use it as an excuse conveniently to get out of something, your contract. It doesn't matter what he has. The NBA provides ample resources for you, therapists. But no, you wanted to circumvent that. Not only did you want to use your own, where we don't know if they're licensed or not. You don't want the Sixers to communicate with them so they can keep tabs on their product because you signed a contract, buddy. That means you're a product of them. That doesn't. You're not a freelance contractor. You are essentially their property. They have you under contract, which means they have access to your medical records. They have access to your therapy records because they're paying you $30 million a year. And so, yeah, they have the right to know these things.
Jerm, I will say this, and this will be the only thing I'll say about the Ben Simmons mental health thing. Two things. One, I feel like it's hard for some people to process that somebody could be having mental issues and struggling and still could be doing like bad things. Like Ben Simmons could be struggling mentally and still be, flaky and quitting on people and stuff like that. I don't think, one and the other, like if he's doing one, like, oh, the other one's invalid. I don't think that matters at all. But also too, I think with athletes, when it comes to mental health, I think it's getting better. But I think what people are conditioned to see is like we take athletes' mental health seriously when they act out and do really bad things. Like if Ben Simmons was acting erratically, fighting teammates, getting arrested off the field, then we'd be like, oh, hey, like he might have some mental issues. Let's get him checked out. But like mental health struggles come in all shapes and forms in regular people, and I think we need to apply that to athletes as well. But he could have both. He could be a shitty person if they're flakes and also be having mental struggles.
Well, he must have mental struggles if he came to courtside wearing that ridiculous outfit with those rose-colored sunglasses. So anybody who's
come on, all the NBA guys dress funny, man. Come
on, he must have something going on.
You seen Kyle Kuzma with his sweaters? Come on, man. That's everybody.
Let me tell you, that's California, bro. That's Miami. You know better. You've been in Canada too long. So let's move on to Golden State, guys. And Don, I'll start with you. This is a real simple question: are the Golden State Warriors back?
Man, Jerm, they've been back. I've been trying to tell you guys, they've been back. I mean, listen, I know you're going to jump on this one, but Denver's lucky to have won a game in this series. I mean, Golden State's totally the better team. I mean, the reason why they're back, because we've got to compare them to their title teams, right? And even 2016 when they went 73-9 or whatever. You go back and look at that starting five from 2016. Draymond, Clay, and Steph, they're all still here. They're getting healthier. Curry's playing just as well as he did that year. I understand Clay and Draymond maybe not quite the same as they're older and more injured, but they're getting there. And then I'll tell you what, of the starting five, back then it was Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut. Now it's Looney, which I think kind of cancels out Bogut. But I like whether you put in Wiggins or whether you put in Jordan Poole. I mean, that's a little bit more offensive firepower just from the scoring aspect than Harrison Barnes was on that particular team. So this starting five, I think, is better. And if you go Poole instead of Curry in the starting five and you bring Curry off the bench, that's ridiculous. You've got an MVP, you've got a champion Hall of Famer coming off the bench, dropping 30 when Jordan Poole's still doing his thing as a young guy. I mean, look at the stats in this series against Denver. Clay, 24.5. Jordan Poole, 24. Wiggins, 14.5. Then you got Curry at 27.5. They have the formula. 3 prime scorers in the playoffs. And, oh, by the way, they got Draymond, who almost had a triple-double in Game 4. Like, the playoffs experience is there. And what I like most is the high-octane offense like they've had, and they've got that swag back. And I read somewhere, instead of the Splash Brothers, it's the Splash Triplets throwing in Jordan Poole. Like, they almost forget that KD was on that team now because they're looking to the future, and they're like, we've got guys that can score. Yeah, we don't have KD anymore, but we have guys that can win us the title now. So they've been back this season. I've been telling you guys, they got young guys that are still coming up. They may not play a factor in Moody and Kuminga, even Gary Payton. Like, those are guys, I'm telling you, that if Otto Porter's another guy, like any given night, he can easily get a double-double when he gets minutes. So, I mean, all around, this team is back. West is in trouble.
Dwayne.
I had the Warriors as my preseason pick to make it to the finals.
Nice.
With the expectation that Klay Thompson would be back and would be 80% of himself. Well, I don't think Klay Thompson is 80% of himself. I think Klay Thompson's at least 90% of what he once was. And Jordan Poole should have not only been a finalist for the award, but Jordan Poole should have won Most Improved. at least over John Morant. Like that,
that's a cop out. I don't like that pick either.
Can't tell me that the second overall pick in his draft is the most improved player of this season. Like this, we expected this out of we expected this leap out of John Morant, taking nothing away from him. But that's besides the point. This is a basketball team that is really, really dangerous. And I've said for a long time now, and I think it's universally true. And if you don't, I don't really know how you can deny it. Like Draymond Green's the most important player on this basketball team. Like, yes, Steph brings the ball up the floor, and yes, Steph's listed on the depth chart as a point guard. But Draymond Green is really the point guard and the quarterback of this basketball team, offensively and defensively. Like Draymond Green, you can see differences between what this team looks like with and without Draymond Green. Now, he's not posting sexy box scores, right? He's not hitting threes as soon as he steps over half court, right? He's not doing the shimmies and the shucking and the jiving that Clay and Steph and Jordan Poole does. He's not posterizing guys like a Gary Payton does or Andrew Wiggins does, but he is the quarterback of this basketball team. That's really, really important. Like, and they've got the depth. Like they have the depth that I don't think they've had in a while. Like you look at that 2016 team, that was a solid team, but they didn't really have reliable depth deep into once you get to like your 7th, your 8th, your 9th man on the bench. The 17 and the 18 teams, that's a top heavy team. Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond Green. Doesn't matter who's on your bench. As long as 3 of those 4 guys are cooking any given night, you're likely going to win the game. Now they have depth. Now they have a guy in Jordan Poole who has, number one, single-handedly, I think, extended the Golden State's championship contention window at least another 3 to 5 years. Like, him by himself, the step that he's taken, I think, has easily extended the window. Obviously, he has to continue on this trajectory, and we'll see what it looks like through the course of the playoffs as they play better defensive teams because they'll likely match up against the Suns. That's a solid defensive team, so we'll have to see if he can continue on that. Or no, they'll match up probably with the Grizzlies, so we'll have to see if he can stay this way against that defense, and then they'll probably run into the Suns as well, and then whoever comes out of the East, I think it'll either be the Heat or the Celtics. So we'll have to see if he can continue this production against solid defensive teams. But as it stands right now, yeah, the Warriors are back. I think they've been back. The only hesitation and the only thing I think that could maybe prevent the Warriors from, I think, winning the championship this season would be if Jordan Poole falls off. Because a lot of the Warriors' success has really hinged on Jordan Poole being able to take off some of that offensive load from Steph and Clay so that they don't have to necessarily go out there and give you 30 a night. It's not that they can't, but they haven't really had to. Like in Game 4, it took a while for Steph, or in Game 5, I think 4 or 5. My concept of time sucks. The most recent game in this series, it took a while for Steph to get going. Like he started off the night 0 for 5, 0 for 6, something like that. But you had your Jordan Poole to fall back on. That's going to be the only issue is if Jordan Poole does cool down with Steph potentially coming off the bench, will that affect Steph's productivity? How much longer are you going to continue to have Steph come off the bench? I say you ride it out until it doesn't work anymore because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You don't want to cool down Jordan Poole, especially in the playoffs. But yeah, the Warriors are back, and the only way they don't make it to the finals is if they run into the Suns because the Suns, I think, are the superior. Obviously, they're the superior defensive team, and they can also pour in the points in bunches. That would be the only hesitation. But I had the Warriors going to the finals since the preseason.
JT.
Ooh, it's kind of tough to follow up those two. I personally was not on the Warriors bandwagon, preseason or before the playoffs, so I'm not going to victory lap as hard as these guys. But I will say, I like how you put it, Goat, that, like a hesitation. My hesitation is, are they back? Short term, yes. The West sucks, and, this is an easy, ride to the throne right now. But long term, I don't know. I would feel much comfortable about them being back, or because Don compared them to like their dynasty years. Like if James Wiseman was like healthy and like we knew what he was, like I'd be like, oh yeah, this team's definitely like on par with that dynasty. But this year, yeah, I mean, I don't even think the Suns are an issue because I mean they can't stay healthy. Like CP3 goes down, comes back. If Booker goes down, comes back. Like I think it's in their contract. Like they can't be together that long. Like one's always going to get hurt. Like they're not going to do it. So
yeah.
And they also ran into like I know I'm a Jokic guy, but I've repeatedly said this. The caveat is it's a bad team. It's a bad team that he's carrying. So they ran into them first round. Was it the team was really bad, or is it that the Warriors are back? And that's my hesitation. But I guess
it's both.
Like,
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is how I would say the Warriors are back. I know it's not their fault they play in the West, but like if you were to confidently say like they're knocking off like top 3 teams in the East, like in 7-game series, then I'd be like, oh yeah, they're back. Because when KD was there, I'd be like, oh yeah, easily they could do that. They can knock out any team that they play regardless of the conference. Like I'm not that confident in them yet, but Jordan Poole has changed in my mind. But I think for this year, I think they're back as the best team in the West, but I'm not confident like they're back to that dynasty level yet. Like I got to see it because it looks different. Like you said it, Clay, you think he's 90%. I think it's lower than that, man. Like that iPhone charger is not working. And Steph, like he's getting older. Draymond, how long is he going to stay healthy? Like really, like you don't want to see this team just come down to like one and a half of those guys and then Jordan Poole because then it's going to look totally different. But I guess I'm just going to be the odd man out and say like, no, I don't think they're back. I just think they're in a fortunate situation.
I'll say just real quick, based on what we've seen out of the teams in the Eastern Conference in the first round so far, and the only team I can say with complete confidence I think could beat the Warriors in a 7-game series is the Boston Celtics. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because they have enough bodies to throw at Steph and Clay and Jordan Poole and those guys on defense. And they also have enough guys on their offense, both not just outside of JT and JB, but like they also have guys on the bench that can heat up really quickly, especially in the big moments. Like the Heat have it too.
I'm about to say, yeah, you acting real Prince for a moment is because Southeast, we've been playing defense for years now.
The Heat have it too. We just
not sexy. That's all it is.
It's not so much.
You guys don't have any superstars. That's all that is.
Yeah, we're not sexy. If Jason Tatum was playing for the Heat, you'd be saying the same thing.
No,
Jason Tatum's a superstar.
I don't know if the Heat are going to the finals. Like I
was this series.
We're going to see.
I don't know. I love the Heat. I think we're going to get the Heat and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and that'll be probably the best series.
So you mean Joel Embiid's not going to get it done?
It's not going to be because it'll be because of James.
Oh, of course.
We'll be all right, man. We'll be all right.
It's never Joel's fault.
I mean, he's the best.
I mean, it's not. I mean,
he's the best player at his position in the league, and he is the MVP regardless of what the boneheads in the media say. And also, just
Joel Embiid got that no fault clause. There we go. I got it.
Just because I might inflame someone here, I don't know who, but I think I might catch someone with this one. Jokic also isn't the best player on his team when everybody's healthy. That's Jamal Murray. But
that is Jamal Murray. Bubble champion, bubble
both
MVP.
Both of y'all trying a little hard. Come on, man.
Let's look at the bubble. I mean,
y'all trying Jokic.
When they went to the Western Conference Finals, who was the best player on that team? That was Jamal.
First of all, before we even talk about this, Jerm, I'm assuming you own an Embiid jersey, right?
Oh yeah.
Right there, hanging over his left shoulder.
All right, cool. Go. Do you own
where
an
it belongs
jersey?
In the rafters?
I own an Embiid jersey. No.
Yeah, you can't be this flagrant then. That's y'all. Okay, I'm not saying I never said Joel Embiid wasn't a good player. I just think Jokic was more valuable. Like, dang, like the man's still a superstar. He's still in the playoffs. Be happy. Don't you want a championship?
Yeah, the one in 3 Denver Nuggets led by the MVP in the playoffs, about to get bounced out.
That team is trash.
He's the 6th seed in a weak Western Conference. The last
with a bad team.
Embiid won a playoff. Embiid 2 years ago, he had Ben Simmons as his second best player, and with Tobias Harris, and he had he had like a hamstring or a leg injury, and he won a playoff series, and nobody gives him credit. Or no, he got swept, and nobody gives him credit because he was hurt, and he had Ben Simmons bum ass as the second best player.
But you know what's funny? The same reason you guys are clamoring for all this Joel Embiid respect, y'all just did the same thing to John Morant. You're supposed to do this. Like they paid for this man. Like they call him the process. They literally created a whole system for this guy to succeed. Like, this is what we expect from him. Like you want to.
Nikola Jokic is boring, JT. He's boring. I'd rather watch paint dry. I'd rather watch Zion. Listen, he's boring. He is boring, dog.
He's art, man.
He's so the MVP got taken out of a playoff game in the final minutes because he can't play defense. He played 0 minutes in the fourth quarter of an All-Star game. The All-Star game, where all the best players play.
It's an All-Star game. Like nobody cares about that.
No, it's not. And it's not just about the All-Star game. The only quarter that matters in the All-Star game, where the best players congregate and actually.
Oh, you mean where your buddies decide who gets in the game?
No, do they? Hey, JT, stop it.
Wait, that's a fair point. Hold on. If your buddy decides who's in the fourth quarter, and you're not in the fourth quarter, that
means you suck.
I don't get along. That means I suck.
This is what I'll say because
that's why the Brooklyn Nets got knocked out because they want to play with their friends and don't want to be honest with each other.
That's true.
This is what I'll say about Joel Embiid and the whole Nikola Jokic thing, right? Because if my memory serves me correctly, I'm not as old as you guys, luckily, so I've still got a lot of more memory left in the bank. The last time a sixth seed won, the last time that MVP hailed from the team that was the sixth seed, it was Russell Westbrook when he averaged a triple for the first time in forever, right?
Struggle sixth seed, by the way. They struggled to that sixth seed all
and they
year.
also struggled to that sixth seed. And Nikola Jokic led a bad team to the sixth seed, but this is a weak conference. There's nobody in this conference outside of the Phoenix Suns and
you're acting like because
and then Joel Embiid only didn't have James Harden for half the year, and in that half, his second best player was Tobias Harris, and the Sixers were a constant top 3 seed in a harder conference.
Even with James Harden, Joel Embiid's production didn't drop. Joel Embiid's production stayed about. I have to because they do it. They imply it all.
I can smell the Similac coming off of the screen. That's why
they imply it all the time off air. So I have to bring it up for them on air so that they can understand.
Why can't it be both? That maybe Joel Embiid is the MVP, but you guys are dogging Jokic like he is nothing. Like he should go back to Europe. That's insane what you guys are saying about the reigning. He's not even the defending. He is currently the reigning MVP.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
The other thing too is, you want to talk about, what happened when Harden got there? Oh, guess what? Embiid, Harden, the Sixers went from a 2 seed, a 1 seed down to a 4. So we're going to ignore that they're now a 4 seed. Yes, I agree. The East is much tougher than the West, but what Jokic has done, where not only is his team not as good as the Sixers, but when you lose key pieces for a whole year, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, you just said Jamal Murray's the best player on that team. I guarantee you if Jokic is off and Murray's there and you put an average center there, that Denver doesn't even Denver may not even make the play-in spot.
The Denver Nuggets still.
I like Jamal Murray too. You can ask JT. I'm a huge Jamal Murray fan, but don't ever.
We're gonna find out here pretty
soon. He's the best player on the team when Jokic is there.
If you put an average center, and my definition.
What's your example of an average center?
Jared Allen.
Ken Birch. No, Jared Allen's an all-star. Put Ken Birch on that team.
Yeah, Ken Birch.
Jared Allen is not an all-star. Enough, guys.
Is he not an all-star? I thought he made the all-star.
In Cleveland as a result.
You want to say the fourth quarter of an all-star game?
Doesn't count.
That's the most important quarter of the season. But now Jared Allen making the all-star team.
He made that because there's no centers. There's no other centers in the East. All the centers are in the West. That's why.
Joel Embiid's not in. Okay, I got it.
He was already on the All-Star team. Who else were you going to grab? What other center were you going to grab that wasn't hurt? No. In the East, because they had to pull the center from the East.
Look what happened at the end of the year to Cleveland when Jared Allen got hurt and missed like the last month.
You can be an important.
He's pretty important to them.
You can be important. You could be a game changer, right? Stylistically, aesthetically, roster construction, all that matters. That doesn't make you a superstar. That doesn't make you a star player just because you fit well with a roster. Jared Allen is a good center. He's not a star center. Like he's good. He's just he's a slightly better version of Brook Lopez.
I'll give you Jared Allen and Jamal Murray, and you still ain't making the playoffs with that Denver.
I got you.
Denver Nuggets with Jared Allen and Jamal Murray would absolutely be the.
I think they would make the play-in. I don't know if they'd meet the 6th seed, but they would. They would be fighting.
This year's Western Conference, if everything happens the way everything happened as it did in this year's Western Conference, and you're telling me instead of Nikola Jokic, you have Jared Allen at the 5 for the Denver.
First of all, why y'all acting like the Western Conference is the G League? Like I feel like y'all using that. Oh, the Western Conference is terrible, so like anything you do is like a weighted GPA. Like no, these are still good teams. Like they got beast players and teams in the West. Like it's not the G League.
These are the standards that we've set when we talk about MVP. Because one of the things that we always brought up, and I've mentioned this once before, One of the things we've always brought up when LeBron was racking off MVPs and finishing top 3 in MVP voting all that time he was in the East was, the Eastern Conference is weak. He shouldn't be the MVP. Why is that? Why is it now that Jokic is in the weaker Western Conference? Why is it now that argument now is taboo?
LeBron never had a team as bad as this one.
Oh yeah, he has.
He has.
Late 2000s Cleveland.
Debatable.
Really bad.
Well, to answer the original question,
on his worst team, did he have any All-Stars?
The team,
Mo Williams,
2007 Finals.
Okay, how many All-Stars? How many people on All-Star shape on the Nuggets?
The team he took to the 2000.
We talking about Eric Gordon here, like Eric Gordon, Magic fan on the panel, like
slam dunk contest.
Who is Eric Gordon?
LeBron James took to the 2007 Finals is absolutely worse than this Denver Nuggets team, and dare I say, the team that he dragged to the Finals in 2017 and 2018 are also worse than this current.
Whoa, no. You can't say Kyrie and Kevin Love on that team and then say that this Denver team is better.
Put Cleveland, Kyrie, and Kevin Love on the team with Jokic, and we're not even wipe that Warriors topic off the screen.
Yeah, you're right.
Cavaliers team is worse.
I want to move, Dwayne. I want to move it. I want to move it on, but to answer the question, they're definitely back because you mentioned that Klay Thompson's not. Somebody refuted that Klay Thompson isn't back, even though he's averaging 24 points per game in this series. They're definitely back as long as Kyrie, as long as Curry and Draymond are healthy, because Draymond looks back to his defensive stealth. They got a new depth lineup, which is, with Jordan Poole in there. As long, like I said, Curry drives the ship as long as he's healthy. I would like to see them play this way with a team that is more of a threat from the perimeter. That'll be the challenge. But we'll see. But as far as where the Warriors were supposed to be at compared to the adjustment because of the injuries, to James Wiseman not being here and things of that nature, I think they're absolutely back. I would, if they won the title, I definitely wouldn't raise an eyebrow. It is where they are. Speaking of the Western Conference, Eastern Conference, there's some big injuries. Phoenix somehow struggling with the Zion-less Pelicans out of nowhere. The point guard is doing everything he can. So which injury hurts a team's chances of repeating in terms of reaching the NBA Finals more? Chris Middleton and the Bucks or Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns? Whoever wants to go.
Middleton and the Bucks, because the Bucks can't make it to the Finals without a closer. We've already seen that. When we
Chris Middleton's their closer.
You heard what he said.
Chris Middleton's their closer.
I heard what he said. Yeah, you're right. You heard. Wait, hold on. I heard it. My bad.
I hate to sound like Justin Marvel here, and trust me, I really do. But Chris Middleton's their go-to guy in really big moments. And when you look back at before he became that guy for the Bucks, most recently in the 2019 NBA Eastern Conference Finals, before he became their closer, the Toronto Raptors walled up and they didn't make it out of the Eastern Conference Finals. This is not a team that can make it out of the Eastern Conference without a closer. What the Phoenix Suns have in their back pocket is they have the best coach in the conference, the best coach in the league, but especially in the conference, and they still have a closer. Like Chris Paul can still close games for them. They still have Mikal Bridges, who finished top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he just dropped 31 for them in their last game. Now, it is a little bit shocking that the New Orleans Pelicans have been able to take 2 games, but Brandon Ingram has been playing phenomenal basketball. He's been playing outstanding in his first playoff series, so I want to give credit to him. But I can still see the Suns making it out of the West without Devin Booker. I don't know if the Bucks can go on to next round and make it past the Celtics as stout as they are defensively, and then potentially run into the 76ers or the Heat and make it past them as well to make it to the finals without Chris Middleton. I don't see that happening because essentially what teams are going to do is they're going to let Giannis average his 35 and 15 and then just make sure that Drew Holiday doesn't score, make sure that Brook Lopez doesn't score, make sure that Bobby Portis doesn't get hot, and all those guys don't get hot. And so then it means absolutely nothing. Now you're asking
that's a lot of guys you named. It sounds like you're kind of making the other argument.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of guys, but if I'm the Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat or the Philadelphia 76ers, let Giannis go for 35 and 15. Let him average 50 points in the series. It doesn't matter. I would much rather focus on making sure those guys don't get hot than Giannis and focusing on Giannis, and then one of those guys beat you. Because all of those guys, especially the Celtics and the Heat, they have enough bodies to throw at all of those other guys I just named.
JT, you want to go next, or do you want me to teach the young guy?
Let me go real quick.
All right.
My man, Goat Bayless, with the knowledge over here. Look at you. He said Chris Middleton is the closer. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. He might be right, but I do think the Middleton injury is more important because, one, this has been the Bucks' problem all season. They just don't have the same level of depth as they had last year. So you lose one of those big three, that's terrible because, like, you forget, like, everybody's like, oh, yeah, Bobby Portis took this step this year. Like, he didn't even play in the playoffs last year, did he, that much? Like,
Not
he
much.
was on the bench. So, like, you know, he's not reliable when it comes to playoff basketball. Lopez is old, coming off, like, same season back surgery. So, basically, it's Giannis who can't hit free throws but can go off for 50, and then Drew Holiday, who is nice. Like, the Suns, like, this is what they do. It's Chris Paul or Devin Booker. One of them is down, the other one is up, and then they got the best depth. Like, it's easy, but I feel like the reason they're also struggling with the Pelicans is, like, this is what the Pelicans made the trades for. Like, they went and got a McCollum. Like, they had Brandon Ingram. Like, they got Valanciunas. Like, Herb Jones. Like, talk about defensive player of the year. Boy could lock you up. Like, that team is nice. It's just everybody's just thinking that, you know, they're nothing without Zion. So it's a good matchup, but yeah, I think Middleton's too hard to replace because it's like, who do you bring off the bench? Like, name a person that plays on that team that you can plug into the lineup in the playoffs and be like, all right, that guy can get me 20 at least one time.
Connaughton.
So, thank you, Jerm. So, Jerm, I hope you agree.
So you're gonna go to Vegas and bet that Billy Hoyle's gonna put up?
No, that's not what you said.
But that's also not what we're arguing.
No money down that Connaughton can get 20.
But that's not what we're arguing. So, Jerm, I hope you're going to agree with me so we can teach these guys some basketball because it is Devin Booker. You're telling me if you get to if you had to pick a team, you're going to take Milwaukee and still have to face Giannis, an MVP, a champ, compared to the point guard, even though he's one of the great point guards of all time, but CP3 and the rest of the Suns, like, now we're going to rely on Bridges. Hold on.
They have the best record in basketball with those two players missing time all year.
But it doesn't matter because Booker is potentially an MVP candidate this year. You're poo-pooing again. You love doing this, JT. You're poo-pooing Devin Booker. Devin Booker this year is playing like a top five.
You and Devin Booker
top three.
Y'all need a weekend together.
He's playing like a top 5, top 3 player this year. And you're just going to push him to the side and say, you know what? Chris Middleton's my guy. Let me tell you what Chris Middleton has done so far in the playoffs. 2 games, 4 for 13, 11 points, 6 of 11, 18 points. Let me tell you what, hold on. You asked who can fill that spot. Well, you put Portis in who goes double-double, and then guess what? Not only Jerm is right with Connaughton because he's got 14 through 3 quarters tonight, but you look at Grayson Allen's 2 games, 27 points game 3, 22 points game 4. You can blink all you want, JT, but the fact is that the Bucks have depth.
25, 27.
We're really talking about Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen. Like, we haven't seen.
You're really talking that Chris Middleton's the close. Are you guys crazy? Chris Middleton.
You asked who could come in and score 20 points, which ironically is what
it's not Pat Connaughton.
He did it twice.
It's Grayson Allen did it twice, and Grayson Allen.
This is
guys.
Chris Middleton averages only 20 points per game.
My argument is solely based on the fact of depth. And the Suns have depth.
What depth do they have? What does that matter when you don't have
Booker?
When you don't have Booker? Is Booker a better player? Answer this.
Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. Like, you're acting like these guys haven't shown you their upside all season when Booker and CP3 have
who is the better player?
Players,
Chris Middleton, Devin Booker. Answer the question.
Okay, so I'm not denying that Devin Booker is better than Chris Middleton.
No, that's not the question.
Jerm made a good point earlier. In basketball, you have the best players. They play a lot more of a factor than Chris Middleton.
So perfect example. I'll give you an example. So let's say the Rams, right? So let's say Aaron Donald's the better player, but if Matthew Stafford gets hurt, do they have with which player getting hurt, not getting hurt, do they have a better chance to win a Super Bowl?
But football's different because the most important position on the football field is quarterback, whether we like it or not. So and Jerm is right. Football is different. That's why LeBron has been able to carry those Cleveland Cavs teams.
This is why
we've seen bad defenses carry team and getting carried to Super Bowls by good offenses, and we've seen vice versa. We've seen great defenses carry bad offenses to Super Bowls. Football is just different. There's too many moving parts.
I get that.
Again, in basketball, a singular person makes a difference, which is why the answer to this question is who's been the best team all season? The Phoenix Suns. The best player on the Phoenix Suns is Devin Booker. That's why it hurts him more. And it really has less to do with Chris Middleton and Devin Booker as individuals. It has to do with matchups, right? Without Devin Booker, the Phoenix Suns are on upset alert by the lowly New Orleans Pelicans.
But it has a lot to do than just with Devin Booker, because with Devin Booker in the lineup, the New Orleans Pelicans won a game. That's the thing. Like
and without Middleton, they have wiped the floor. They're going to win 3 games 93-74
right now with the Chicago Bulls.
Aren't good.
I feel like
the Pelicans are great.
The Pelicans aren't.
They're good. They're not trash.
Oh, the Bulls aren't good all of a sudden. They're only
the Bulls been a top 5 seed in the East all year.
Aren't as trash as you thought they were.
But none of us seriously thought that the Chicago Bulls would have a puncher's chance against the Milwaukee Bucks with or without Chris Middleton. So there's two.
And that's our point, though, that Milwaukee's so good. That they don't even need to worry about it.
No, it's because the Chicago Bulls this season didn't beat a team that didn't beat a top team in either conference all season until they won that one game when DeMar DeRozan dropped 41, and they still almost lost that game. This is why I can comfortably say that Chris Middleton is a bigger loss for the Bucks. Is because when we looked at the Bucks and the Suns in the finals just last season, the ball, if it wasn't in Giannis's hands, it was in Chris Middleton's hands in big moments. Can Pat Connaughton score 20 points? Yes. Can Grayson Allen score 20 points? Yes. Can Bobby Portis and other guys do that? Yes. They can score the 20 points. I'm not debating that. That's all JT. You can slaughter JT on the who's going to score 20 points thing because they can.
But you're making our argument. That's our argument. Chris Middleton is replaceable. Devin Booker is not.
Hold on, but he's not because you don't trust Grayson. No, you're not going to trust Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, or Bobby Portis with the ball in their hands in a clutch moment. You're not. You're going to want Giannis. You're going to want the ball in Giannis's hands. You're not telling me that Mike Budenholzer is going to draw up a play for Grayson Allen in clutch time. He's not drawing up a play for Pat Connaughton if the game is on the line. You draw up those plays for the best players on the team. The Phoenix
keep forgetting Giannis is on. I don't care what happens. Like Giannis will get the ball and go. Everyone get out the way, like they used to do for Jordan. Get the ball to Giannis. Everyone out the way. Get to the bucket.
I'm not forgetting.
Middleton goes.
What I am
hits
saying
one
is,
game winner, and Dwayne Marcus goes crazy.
No, it's not. It's not that crazy. What I'm saying is,
Devin Booker hasn't won anything, but everybody swears he's Kobe. So you can say the same thing.
You've seen that if you're solely reliant on Giannis, what happens? You just wall up and you keep. He's not going to do it. He becomes ineffective. We've seen teams do that to success. I don't understand why we're forgetting like teams can't wall. Like there aren't teams left in this playoffs that can throw bodies at Giannis and that can wall up and can keep him from like. I didn't forget about Giannis because I said earlier when I first answered the question that Giannis can go for 35 and 15, and the game plan will be to keep other players from scoring the ball. I said that. I said that.
Who are the champs, Marcus? But who's the champs? Those Milwaukee Buck guys on the bench, they've been there. They won it. You know who they beat? Yeah. The Suns. You know why the Suns were in the finals last year? Yeah, CP3 helps, but Devin Booker was a huge part. And guess what? They didn't win. So for you to say, hey, Cam Johnson's going to come in, Bridges, we're going to trust DeAndre Ayton all of a sudden. Come on, you're making that same argument that you can make that you're making for the Bucks, you can make for the Suns.
The only point that I'm making is that there's more than just Devin Booker to this basketball team.
But they're not the same Suns without Devin Booker. The Bucks are closer to the Bucks than they are without Middleton than the Suns are without Booker.
But the
hey, you got to get that sound, Jerm. Like anytime somebody says something annoying, get that sound and play it.
I got you. I'll work on it.
Solid team defensively without Devin Booker, and like Devin Booker as a law, he hurts you offensively. He doesn't not having Devin Booker doesn't hurt you that much defensively. I would still trust the Suns to shut down or do it or slow down an offensive threat without Devin Booker.
I think the Bucks can go. I think my argument really is that the Bucks can still make it to the Eastern Conference Finals without Middleton because of the path that's before them.
They can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, sure.
Right. I don't think the Suns can make it past the next round. I don't think they won't make it past the next round without Devin Booker, and that's my point. That's there's because their matchup is going to be a lot tougher than what the Bucks have to face, and that's why I say that injury works out. But Dwayne, I'll let you start this one. James Harden, is he washed? Let me give you some backstory. People saying he's washed. He's averaging 19 points and 10 assists per game, shooting 40% field goal percentage. Not too far off from what he was doing in Brooklyn. But Philly's struggling, I would say.
I think he's washed, although I would understand an argument for that. I simply think his role is clearly a lot different than what it was in Houston. Like in Houston, he was the primary scorer. It was his job to score. Like it was in James Harden's job description in Houston to drop 30 a night. That was when he signed the dotted lines on those contracts. That's what he was agreeing to, is I'm going to give you 30 a night. When he left that and went to Brooklyn, his focus, his role shifted from less to dropping 30 a night and more to distributing the ball and running the offense. And the same can be said now in Philly. I don't think James Harden is washed. I just think because his role is different, he looks different. He doesn't look great offensively. He is not still being the prolific scorer that we know him to be. But I don't think it's because he's washed. His role is just different, and that's why he's taken a hit. He's also forced himself to go out of shape or put on the fat suit or whatever twice now to force his way into Philly. And I think because of the forcing his way out, and he hasn't really been playing a lot of games over the past couple of years as far as consistently due to injury and trying to force his way out, I don't think he's fully back in game shape yet. And that, I think, has a lot to do with it too. But I don't think he's washed. His role is just different. He doesn't have to be the alpha on this team. And I think he's still trying to adjust to that a little bit.
JT, what you think?
Yeah, he's washed. And how long – I like how you use like that. Like he's still trying to get in game shape. Like, it don't take 3 years to get in game shape. That's first thing. And then second of all, I know, Jerm, I promised you that we wouldn't use the word analytics, but I'm just going to use it this one time and say screw the analytics when it comes to James Harden. Because when you watch him,
hold on.
When you watch him, he looks washed to me.
Yeah.
He can't shoot the ball. Basically, if he's not getting to the free throw line, like, how is he scoring points? Like, I even seen sometimes where he's afraid to knock down an open three when that used to be his thing. And the thing that really worries me about James Harden being washed is I think he knows that it's coming and it's already started. So you got to think, Goat Marcus, you a young guy, right?
Oh, jeez.
So I'm going to tell you this. When you get older, there's certain things that don't happen. You don't get thinner. And when you get injured, things don't get better. And he's getting older, he's getting fatter, and he's having soft tissue injuries. That does not get better as you get older. Yeah. So you look at that, and then also the way that the game is being officiated, like, it's different than when he was in Houston. So his game has to really adapt to that. That's also part of the reason why he's struggling in Brooklyn, because his efficiency numbers are bad, and he's not getting as many trips to the free throw like he did in Houston. So you look at that all around with he's getting older, he's not in shape, he's got the hamstring issues, and the game is moving past his style of play. Yeah, absolutely he's washed, which is why I feel like Philly fans are kind of nervous about him because, like, okay, like, what are we really going to get from him next year? Like, which James Harden is going to show up? Because I'm sorry, the Zion James Harden might show up again next year, and then are we going to use the same excuse? Well, he's still trying to get in game shape. Like, no, like, this is who he is. He's an old man that's out of shape. Like, that's life.
He's got 1 foot out the door for sure, though.
So
yeah, to McDonald's.
So Marcus, there's certain things that don't lie. You might say, well, He doesn't need to be the main scorer, main guy. Like, that's why his numbers are down. But there's a couple analytics, JT. You went non-analytics. I'm going to go analytics to prove that you're right, JT. He is washed. Sorry, Jerm. He is washed up the shore. 2 stats. 3-point percentage, worse than his career. 33.3%. Go. Doesn't matter whether he's the main guy on a team coming off the bench. When you can't shoot anymore from 3, and that's what he was known for, especially in Houston, the step back, it's over. And this is probably the best analytic that I could find. His blow-by percentage, meaning, let me explain what that means.
I know.
Give him them numbers.
All right. Like, it's one-on-one getting by a guy. He was in, prior to this year, he was in the 89th percentile. That's elite in the NBA, especially when you have all these quick guards like Westbrooks and Chris Pauls and everything. He is now down to the 58th percentile. If that's not a drop, and that doesn't show what JT's saying, where he's not getting thinner, he's not getting faster, he's not recovering from these injuries, that's the whole definition of being washed up. You're getting old. You're not as fast. You're not as slim.
This is
and
old man
you don't
life.
recover. Yeah, and you don't recover from injuries. That's what happens when you go from being 22 to 42 at the LA Fitness. This is what's happening, except it's happening on national television in the NBA for James Harden.
James Harden went from a 5-star to 2-star recruit athleticism. Like, that spark score is low.
I'm just giving James the benefit of the doubt because it's been rough.
That's nice of you. That is nice of you.
That's terrible. Don't do that.
Nice guy. I am a nice guy. I try to be a nice guy.
So I've been listening to all you guys with your nonsense analytics, you stat nerds, talking about blow by percentage and VORP or whatever the fuck you guys
do
whatever. And watching James Harden now, all of you know I was anti James Harden from the beginning. I didn't want him even when before the trade even happened. I was vocally against trading for James Harden because the Sixers team didn't need James Harden. And I already knew what was going to happen. Once Daryl Morey's fat walrus ass traded for his love interest, we were going to have to pay him the max next year, which is exactly what's going to happen. So we're going to pay this dude $40 million, and it's going to ruin our roster. Daryl Morey ruined this team. So, but here we are. Is he washed? Well, it depends what you were expecting. When I said if James Harden's going to come here, I don't need him. I think, Marcus, you were on the show with us, and I said I don't need James Harden to be Houston James Harden. I need him to be a functional version of Ben Simmons. I need him to come in here and facilitate and take pressure off of Joel Embiid from inside the lane and draw people out so Joel Embiid can get a lot of one-on-ones. And that happened for a majority of the time during the regular season. Then the playoffs started, and James Harden, people realized, oh, wow, he can't shoot no more. So now people are sagging off Joel Embiid, and he's forcing these bad passes. And again, Harden is still at averaging 10 assists per game, so he's facilitating.
That's what happens when you're
what we need you to do. But yes, so
LA Fitness,
you got to pass it.
But he has been. It's been working up until the end of the season and the postseason. It was working. Hey, you got attention off of Joel Embiid, and you were knocking down 3-point shots. That's what we needed Ben Simmons to do: spot up threes. The problem is now in this Toronto series, James Harden, you're shooting 22% from 3. That ain't going to get it done. That's why people are sagging off on you. So am I going to overreact and call him washed? I can, like Tobias Harris went through this earlier in the season. He started off the first 2 or 3 months of the season averaging 23 points. And then in November or in December, he got COVID and missed a couple weeks. And then he came back and he was only averaging like 15 points per game. And people were trashing him. And this went on for about a month. And then he jumped back up to 20, 21 points per game. So maybe it's just the matchup. James, if the Sixers, God forbid, they don't make history and blow a 3-0 lead, and it's Doc Rivers, and it's James Harden, and it's Joel Embiid, and the basketball gods are cruel, and it'll probably happen because it's Philly. But if they somehow manage to escape Toronto and they end up facing Miami, I think that's a more favorable matchup. And I think you'll see a different matchups matter in the NBA more than anything. We're seeing that with Denver, right? Denver's a good team. I like to make fun of Nikola Jokic, even though the Denver Nuggets are the least rated team in the NBA according to to the Sports Bureau. That nobody watches Denver because Nikola Jokic is boring. But they're a good basketball team, but they're getting washed right now. They're getting scraped because Golden State's just a bad matchup for them. I don't know if this would have happened if they played, I don't know, Memphis or Minnesota. They may be doing this to a different team. Who knows? With Philly, Toronto has always given Philly trouble. Toronto was 3-1 in the regular season against Philly. Now, James didn't play in one of the games, and I don't think Embiid played in a game either. But, you know, even years past, Toronto's always had Philly's numbers. So I'm not going to call him washed because his role changed, and his role was supposed to change. And I don't need him to be 50-point James.
You do need it. You do need.
Well, no, now, well, we need it now because Joel Embiid hurt his thumb. That's what changed the series.
But Jerm, I think you just kind of proved that's why he's washed up, because if you were saying this in 2016, 2017, 2018, you wouldn't be saying it. You would never say, we just need him to be able to hit a couple threes and do a little bit of this.
To me, washed means you
better than Ben Simmons. That just kind of proves he's washed because you're not expecting it anymore. It's okay. He's not a bad player. That's not what we're saying. But the level he was at to where he's now, that's that washed.
But to say, okay, we need you to be the guy you were 5 years ago. Time exists, right? That's never going to happen.
So he's washed up.
He's washed.
But to me, washed up means you were useless. He's not.
LeBron is the same guy he was 3 years ago.
He's still. We wouldn't be saying
he's not worth $40 million. To me, that's why he's washed up. Of course, you can use everybody. You can use the 12th man on the bench, but is he worth $40 million? No, because he's washed up compared to the $40 million.
See, I don't like contract things because, like, Mike Conley, right, signed the highest contract in NBA history. Like, people overreact to the contracts in the NBA. The money's going to be the money.
We're going to have to pay Jim because his level wasn't as high as James Harden. That's. I mean, Harden set a high precedent and it dropped. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
LeBron's washed.
No, I said LeBron is the same player he was 3 years ago, and that's why he's not washed. Like, that's why
he's not. Yeah, he is the same player he's always been. Not making the playoffs when he doesn't have superstar talent around him. He couldn't make the playoffs with LA when Anthony Davis wasn't there. Anthony Davis goes down, and are the Lakers in the playoffs? Dwayne Goat Marcus? No, because LeBron can't do it.
2018. What superstar was he with in 2018, Jerm?
What do you mean?
What superstar was on that roster in 2018 when he went to the NBA Finals?
He didn't know. What are you talking about, superstar in 2018?
You just said you just said LeBron James doesn't go to the playoffs.
Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button.
When he doesn't have a superstar. He didn't have a superstar in 2018 when he went to the finals.
He didn't have Kyrie
No, Kyrie was in Boston by then.
Kevin Love, none of that matters. He's not a superstar in
2018.
Well, I mean, Kevin Love, like Jared Allen, neither one's a superstar or an all-star. So,
he was starting the fourth quarter of the All-Star game.
Kevin Love had chocolate milk commercials. I'm done with you guys. We're done. We're done here.
Hey, Jerm, though. Before you go, worst thing that happened to James Harden with the Sixers is that first game they played against the Nets, because that exposed to everyone that he was washed.
I agree. The Sixers have a bad habit of downplaying things, and then they quit too early on themselves. And it happened yesterday or the other day when we could have closed out the game at home. Toronto punched them in the mouth, which everybody was expecting, and they just never recovered from it. And to me, that's coaching. That's Doc Rivers, not. I wanted Kenny Atkinson. I didn't even want Doc Rivers, but whatever. We'll move on. All right, let's do a quick rapid fire. What did you say?
In his presser about
you said what?
His did you see Doc Rivers' rant about him?
Yeah, I mean, okay, cool. Like, yeah, there's built-in excuses. I'm in the results business. I'm not in the excuse-making business, which is why Nikola Jokic isn't the MVP. But the same thing I feel about Doc. It's you have all these excuses, great, but at the end of the day, you have to own that. That's on you now. Like, you blew all these leads, and now you're about to set a record for blowing a 3-0 lead, which is going to be all like they just blow it up if that happens.
First time in history that's ever happened.
All right, yeah, first time in history it would happen if it were to happen. So I'm terrified. Okay, we'll do Don, Dwayne, and JT in this round of fair or foul. I only have a few questions, gentlemen. The Mavericks are title contenders. Fair or foul?
Foul. That pump the brakes. Listen, Jazz are doing Jazz things in the playoffs. Like, it's pretty much that simple. And to me, the reason why Dallas has no third They may not even have a second consistent score, let alone a third consistent score, which is what you need to win a title. So it's fine.
Given that both you and Jerm, maybe 30 minutes ago, told me and JT that the Suns might not make it out of the second round without Devin Booker. I'm kind of shocked you said that. It's fair, given the circumstances, like given what's happened so far in the first round. It's fair to say that the Mavericks are title contenders now. They weren't entering the playoffs, but Luka's back. They make it past the Jazz. Don believes that Devin Booker's the second coming of Jesus, apparently, for the Suns.
He scored 71. I know you weren't alive when Kobe scored 81, but
I was alive when Kobe
it was close.
81.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They just brought you home from the hospital that day?
Look at that. He had to think about it.
He had to think about it.
Just the fact that he had to think about it.
JT, fair foul. Enough of you, Marcus. Enough.
I think it's fair because the West sucks, according to you guys. So, I mean, they're winning, so they have a chance to be a contender.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. If you have a true number one option and you have good role players and they are efficient when they need to be, I think you will always have a chance. Luka is a top 5 player in the NBA when he's healthy. I know they called Kristaps Porzingis the unicorn. The real unicorn is Luka Doncic. I don't know if you're doing an NBA draft and redrafting all the players in a large pool. I don't know if you're going past 5 or 6 without getting to Luka Doncic's name. Jason Kidd, the coaching has been exceptional. He brought Dallas. Well, he didn't bring. I shouldn't say that. I'll be respectful to Dirk Nowitzki, but he was part of bringing Dallas that championship in 2011, the year Dwayne was born. And so and now he's here doing it again with Luka and Jalen Brunson. I mean, it's the Mavs can do it. Again, matchups matter. If they keep playing with this efficiency and this effort, I think they can do it. I also am a big fan of the draft and develop era. We're leaving the super team NBA 2K era. We got the Celtics, the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Nuggets, the Warriors and Spurs did this. Drafting and developing players and having good teams is awesome. So
Jerm, I can buy that you say fair, but JT in the GOAT, after what you said about Milwaukee's supporting cast and not even really bringing
I
up
caught
Drew
that too.
Holiday, how can you say it's fair where you're going to believe in Dwight Powell, Finney Smith, Reggie Bullock, and I'll give you Jalen Brunson, but then who's the rest of the bench? It's like us 4 coming off the bench with Doncic. Yeah. I mean, come on. You guys needed to say foul. Jerm, I'll give it to you because you defended the Bucks.
We're talking about their road to the title in the West.
Yeah, but if you ain't a good team, you're not a good team. I mean, the West is not as strong as it once was, but you're acting like this is like JT said, the G League of the rest of the West. Come on, that's not true either.
You told me earlier today that the Suns might not make it out of the second round without Devin Booker. Why does that not make their chances of making it to the Western Conference Finals that much?
Okay, but we're talking title contenders, meaning can they actually win the title? No, maybe you get to the Western Conference Finals because of injuries to other teams, but it don't mean you're title contenders.
I think given what we've seen in the first round, I think you could say that the Mavericks are title contenders.
All right, well, we'll see when it gets to the nitty-gritty
if
they have a second and third score to help out Doncic. We'll see, and I'm going to say no. You say yes, I say no. We'll talk about it after the second round.
I can't wait to have you on my show to talk about
this.
Boston, like Bart Scott said, can't wait.
Can't wait. The Boston Celtics are the best team in the East.
It's my turn, right?
Yes.
I go for
Oh, man, he can't wait.
Nope. It's the Heat. They're the number 1 seed. They're winning without Jimmy Butler. They beat a good Hawks team, right? They're winning without Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry. That would be like the Celtics winning without Tatum and Marcus Smart. I don't see that happening. Do you guys? No. So the Heat show they have the depth, they have the shooting, they have the big man in the middle, and they have the defense like the Celtics, and I got to go Coach Spo, and I know JT not going to disagree with me. I go Coach Spo as the coaching factor as well. And mind you, the Celtics have never proven, even with this group, that they can do it to get to the finals. Guess who has? The Heat have that experience. I don't care if it was the bubble, but they can grind out games, play defense just as good, if not better than the Celtics, and they have the experience. And when Jimmy Butler comes back, Now they've got that extra degree of toughness and another score to go along with Strus, Hero, Robinson. I mean, you've got Gabe Vincent playing really well this year. I mean, it's ridiculous how deep the Heat are.
Just a quick update. Milwaukee just finished off Chicago, 116-100, and Milwaukee will be moving on. All right, Dwayne. Celtics, best team in the East, fair or foul?
Foul. You when you can hold the opposing team's best player to under 15 points 3 times in a playoff series and under 10 points twice, you're the best team in that conference. And then that's what the Heat did. They held Trae Young to 9 points in game 2, I think it was, 8 points in game 4, and they held him to 11 points in the closeout game in game 5. That's a beautiful recipe for success. And as Don mentioned, they held Trae Young to 11 points in game 5 without Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler gets back.
Wait, who was that player they held? Who was that again?
Trae Young. He's the best player on the
overrated.
Okay.
I agree with you, but he's still
got a little bit of James Harden going on with his game too.
I agree with you. But he's still the best player. He's still the best player on the opposing team, and holding him to under 15 points is a major deal, especially in the playoffs.
All right, JT. Boston Celtics, best team in the East, fair or foul?
As the only person as a Heat fan on this show, this was actually really tough. I don't want to get too excited because the Hawks are trash. Like, we all can agree on that. Like, it's just Trae Young and nobody else can do anything on that team, especially in the playoffs. I'm going to say it's foul, but it's really close because I think I'm not going to discredit Boston because let's not forget, second half of the year, best defensive team in the NBA. Like, we all thought it was fool's gold. Turns out, like, joke's on us. Like, they're actually really good this year. But like Don said, like, they haven't done in the playoffs yet. And getting the Ben Simmons-less Nets is not, convincing me that, they've arrived yet. But yeah, it's the Heat. Like, they got the best coach. They got the most experience. I think they got the better depth. And like Don said, like, you got guys, they're resting guys because Atlanta is so trash. Like, Butler is okay. Kyle Lowry's personal reasons, he's okay, whatever. And I think that because they've rested those guys all year, like, that depth has gotten to play, like Yurtseven and all the other guys that Don named. So until Boston shows me something, it's going to be the Heat as the best team.
I'm going to say fair, especially because Time Lord is there. And we just watched Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown take out the best player in the league in Kevin Durant and made him look like Chris Middleton. And I'm just – the playoffs are about getting hot at the right moment, too. It's less about totality, right? You can look – I mean, I think we all can agree that we were shocked by Brooklyn because they were favorites to win the title because of the talent of their 2 top players. Boston went in there and made them look junior varsity from every – like, it didn't even look competitive. And I trust their defense. I trust everything they're doing. Jason Tatum, who is ascending before our very eyes. I think I would roll with Boston because they're playing the best basketball out of any team in the playoffs, outside of maybe Golden State. But just the confidence that I see from Jason Tatum, finally taking his Kobe role seriously. I can't bet. I don't know what Miami can do with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think Robert Williams and Bam Adebayo are going to kind of cancel each other out. Not to say that I think Bam's a better player, but I think those like that threat of somebody in the defense who can kind of spread the floor out will kind of cancel each other out. So then, okay, who has the most firepower? It's probably going to be Boston because of those 2 players. Jimmy Butler, I don't know. People like to think he's a superstar or whatever. He's good. He's a really good player. He's like the Matt Ryan of basketball. He's just not there.
Has nothing to do with him playing for the 76ers.
I was about to say, yeah.
Nah, nothing at all.
Yeah.
Oh, him walking out on Philadelphia, just leaving us to leave us.
It's okay that Harden does it to the Nets, though, because you took on Harden.
So, all right, next one. Well, I'll skip the injuries affected a Bucks' ability to repeat because we kind of already hit that with the other topic. So the last one is Miami being slept on, fair or foul? Or Miami is being slept on, fair or foul?
That's fair. They are. I mean, they go number 1 seed, 53-29, same record as Golden State, but it seems like no one talks about them. They want to talk about the Bucks, your 76ers, the Nets, even though they've been eliminated, and the Suns. I feel like those are kind of the hot topic teams in the national media, and they all forget about the Miami Heat, who, like I've said, a couple of years ago got to the finals. They're going to be healthy moving forward here. And nothing else to say. I mean, I've said it already with the whole they're better than the Celtics.
Dwayne.
Yeah, it's fair. There's not really much else to say. I mean, they're not, as JT said earlier, they're not sexy. And today's media likes a sexy pick. The Heat aren't sexy. They don't have a bona fide superstar, right? Coach Poe's Spo. He's the second best coach in the NBA. He doesn't get the love for that, right? They play scrappy defensive basketball, and that's not sexy in an offensive, overpowered basketball style of play today. But yeah, it's fair.
JT.
I'm gonna say foul. I feel like, yeah, the Heat aren't sexy, but they're like the girl that's a 7, but her DMs are full every day. Like, does that mean that she's being slept on? No, like, she's getting her props. Like, the DMs are full. So I just think that people are so used to Miami doing this that they might not talk about it, but trust me, nobody that has to play them or may be down the road is sleeping on them at all. Like, they're getting respect in the right circles.
I am going to say fair. And only because they are a top seed and they are doing what a top seed is supposed to be doing. They're not in threat of losing their series. I think they've gotten enough props all throughout the year. I think a lot of the media, there's no drama going on with them, right? There's been drama with the other top teams, right? There was drama with the Philadelphia 76ers. There was drama with the Brooklyn Nets. You know, the Chicago was a nice little story for a little while. There was nothing. Miami's just been constant, and it's been working. You know, we're talking about Brooklyn. It's so shocking because they weren't supposed, even though they made the play-in, a lot of that had to do with Kyrie Irving, doing whatever he was doing out there in the fields of Wyoming when he wasn't playing home games. And it was about Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and now James Harden coming in. Miami has just been constant. So I think they are being. But did I say fair or foul? I said foul, right?
You said fair. You said fair.
You said fair.
They are being. Oh yeah, because I'm trying to be a contrarian. Yeah, because I'm like talking to myself. I was like, wait, did I it sounds like I'm saying foul. What I'm saying is, it's fair because they're supposed to be slept on. This the first round of the playoffs. There's 8 other series. Like there's 8 series altogether. They're not supposed to struggle. They're the same team, and they don't have any off other than the Royal Rumble they had with their coach and Jimmy Butler they had a couple weeks ago. There's really nothing going on with them in terms of roster construction. So they're fine. I think it's good for them that they're being slept on because when they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and beat either Philly to get there, and hopefully I'm just trying to speak that into existence, and beat up Boston and whatever they got to do. I think it'll be.
No,
really
that's not going to happen because Embiid is going to beat them. Like Embiid is everything.
He can.
Like everything goes through him.
If Embiid didn't hurt his thumb, if Embiid didn't tear his ligaments in his thumb, yeah, I would buy that. That injury put the nail in our coffin, and I'm trying to be a realist about it, but it's not going to get any. It's not. It probably won't get worse, but it damn sure ain't going to get better. And you need your thumb, man. You're a big man. You rebound, you pass. That shit hurts, and it clearly has affected his game.
You need what you need more to your thumb? 50-point James Harden. That would be excellent.
I believe it. Hell yeah, I believe it. All right. Before we get to the game ball, I do have some polls to update from our Stuff About Sports Instagram page, which you can all find at Stuff About Sports on Instagram. And I'm back out of Facebook jail, so if you want to come look for me on Facebook, I don't really post on there that much, but there's some good discussion going on. Why is my Instagram not popping up? This is did I get kicked off of Instagram? Elon Musk must have bought it and kicked me off. All right, here we go. Can't believe Elon Musk bought it.
He's heard about it.
Yeah, he has heard about it. Good. Everybody should be wary. Be wary of what I can do. I'm already kicked off of Twitter, so I mean it don't really matter. More interesting to watch: Nikola Jokic playing basketball or Zion Williamson warming up and not playing basketball. Oh, I can't see the threads. Oh no, I can't do it on the computer. My phone died.
Y'all go stop trying that, man.
You said what?
Y'all go stop trying that.
Trying
man.
who?
Both of them.
Nikola Jokic, the Sports Bureau already put out his game. He's boring, JT. Nobody wants to watch him. He is the worst.
But listen, when you win games, man, like that's all that matters at the end of the day. Like that's a huge part. And he is a good player. Let's admit the things he can do, though, Jerm. Come on, man. Crazy. For a big man like that, that's impressive. Still, doesn't need to be flashy. Doesn't need to be. Flashy.
You know what will solve this whole debate that we've been going on for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
Jerm, you got the number 1 pick in the fantasy draft next year in our league. Who you taking, Joel Embiid or Jokic first?
Giannis. So more. I would take Embiid over Jokic in fantasy.
Hold on, time out. Can we make this a thing? Like you said it on air. If you are picking before,
I will take Joel Embiid first. I'll take him first. Hey,
you have to take him.
Hey, wait, no, not that one. Sorry. I'll take Joel Embiid first. I don't care. I'll do it. Yep, first
Enjoy
pick.
Enjoy your
Joel
8
Embiid
seed
right
out
now.
of 10 teams.
Listen, I'm a waiver wire wizard. I ain't worried about the first pick. The Mavericks are dark horse title contenders. 67% of the audience said yes. Would you prefer to build a porch or watch Nikola Jokic play basketball? 70% of the audience said build a porch.
That's messed up.
Are there any Ben Simmons fans? Guys, it's never happened before. 100% of the audience said no. Second question, should they be ashamed? And that should be for the people who are Ben Simmons fans. It never happened before. 100% of the audience said yes. More boring, a lecture on the history of mailboxes or Nikola Jokic playing basketball. 34% of the audience said lecture. So I guess the lecture on mailboxes is less interesting than building a porch. So there's that. Dwayne, do you have a game ball to give out? Can you hear me, Dwayne Marcus? We can't hear you. Uh-oh. JT, who's your game ball? We'll let him get situated.
I'm gonna go with national champ Aaliyah Boston signing the shoe deal with Under Armour. Like that's really exciting. Yeah. And the most exciting thing is her and Under Armour are gonna open the first women's basketball camp in the Virgin Islands, where my family's from, this fall. So props to Under Armour and props to Aaliyah. Good job.
Good job. That's awesome. Don, what you got?
You know, I'm going to go with 4 guys that got to share the game ball, the basketball. And Jerm, you mentioned it earlier that you like how teams build through the draft instead of going to get the big free agents to do a big 3. In college hoops, listen, I'm all about go get your money when you can. I have no issue with you leaving early, but I got to give props because it's a difficult decision. But the 4 guys from UNC, Baycott, Leakey, Caleb Love, and RJ Davis, guess what? They all running it back because they ended up a little short. Listen, it's hard not to say, it's hard to not go get the money. So props to them, like game ball to each of those guys, because they're like, hey, let's go win this. So that's impressive. That is impressive at a young age.
For those who don't know, I currently live, even though I'm from New Jersey, I currently live in North Carolina, and that was huge news. They were getting a lot of props on local sports radio for making that decision. Goat Dwayne, you back with us on the audio side? Apparently not. Oh, just sit there and look pretty. We can't hear you, buddy. I don't know what's going on. Stop talking. We can't hear you. I am going to give my game ball. Yeah, I don't know why we can't hear you. I'm giving my game ball to Gus Johnson. I'm glad Dwayne couldn't. He left real quick to fix his audio. He wasn't probably alive to know who Gus Johnson is. Legendary NBA voice. He originated the pause for those in the pop culture world. Go look up the clip of him and Spike Lee when Spike Lee was talking about former Knick legend Dan Dickau. And Spike Lee, for some reason, during the trade during an NBA draft, I can't remember what year, said that he loved Dick. And Gus Johnson hit him with the most professional pause of all time, and he kind of started that trend. But Gus Johnson, a legendary basketball voice of the New York Knicks for probably 15 years or so. I think he did local TV for Minnesota and maybe Detroit. I'm one of the smaller market teams. But he's been He's kind of been blackballed, sort of been blackballed, but he was able to announce an NBA playoff game for the first time in his career. He's one of the pioneers. He did the Toronto Raptors. He did the Toronto Raptors Sixers game when Joel Embiid hit that turnaround 3-pointer, which was an awesome moment. And apparently he's going to be doing more games for TNT. And I want to shout out one of our legends, Gus Johnson. Dwayne, you here? Damn, Dwayne. All right. JT or the Don, if you want to plug your stuff, you can go for it.
Yeah, appreciate it. JT and the Don All Sports podcast. You can find us on all the major platforms to get podcasts, and JT does a great job with our social media. Our handle JT and the Don. So that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. So please follow us. And Jerm, thank you for having us on as always, man. A lot of fun. We hope we brought some value to the show again.
You absolutely, every time. I love it, man. I know we always go a little long, but I feel like it's good content. It's good discussion. I always have a blast. I'll do it for 8 hours if we could. I appreciate you guys every time you come on. Dwayne's frozen, and that's a perfect picture. It kind of summarizes everything he's done here tonight with us. And you can find
him. You got the waves though.
Yeah, he's still got the waves. He's still got the tie on. He's looking good. You can go find him at GTP Marcus. Go Talk with Marcus on YouTube, and at GTP Marcus on Twitter and Instagram. And so shout out to him. And of course, this is Stuff About Sports, hashtag Stuff About Sports in your Googles. If you can't find us, you're not looking hard enough on Facebook, Instagram, and the Give Us a Shot Network on YouTube. Hey, real quick, Golden State down. It's 3-2. Wiggins just hit a 3. So it's 5-3. The game just started. Is Golden State going to put Nikola Jokic to bed tonight or no?
No. Golden State wins, in my opinion. Yes.
I don't think they win tonight.
You don't think they win tonight? All right. We will make fun of JT for picking the Denver Nuggets tomorrow.